Hello and welcome to Walker Tea Review. I'm Jason Walker. Got a tea today that is a little bit unique. I haven't talked about this particular kind of tea before. It kind of seems to fall in between a couple of categories, so let's just kind of get it started. I'll be able to introduce it, talk about it a little bit more. This is the kind of tea there's still quite a bit more to learn about it for me personally, and as far as learning for the general market, I don't find a lot of information out there about it. So I'm going to go ahead. As you see, I'm getting out my Gaiwan and I'm scooping out enough to kind of cover the bottom, say 1 inch diameter. This is about a 3.5, 4 ounce Gaiwan. Seal that up, just close it up for just a second and add my water. I want to add enough water so that a little bit of water rests above the rim of my lid. You also notice that I got a good swirl there, so all my leaves got coated with water, so there aren't dry portions of leaf floating at the top of the water surface there, which is good. Okay, set that there, and talk a little bit about and introduce this tea. That's from GrandTea's. This is a LiuBao tea from 2009. Now, again, this is from GrandTea's, so you can find 25 grams available for $2.40. But the real question is, what is LiuBao tea? And it is the general information that is out there kind of describes how this is somewhere between or somewhere in the area of a black tea, and it has some kind of pu'er type of characteristics to it. It does go through some of the kind of fermentation processes of not necessarily of a sheng pu'er, but more of a shu, which is those that have been the oxidation has been kind of increased in speed, so that you get those darker colors and still have some of the fermentation, the bacterial process is taking place as well. So this tea is from Guangxi province. This is from the Three Cranes Tea Factory. And this tea is placed in a basket. It's a little bit unique. It's not wrapped into a disc necessarily like a pu'er is, but it often gets piled up, and there's a bacterial process that is aging these teas. As it's covered, it's kind of in a stuffy type environment that causes it to react and age and ferment in a way that's very similar to, or some of the process similar to pu'ers. So it's kind of pu'er, but it's not from that same area or region that of Yunnan, which is Yunnan province, where pu'ers are generally attributed or sourced from. So, talking about this tea, we're going to find that it may have some pu'er type characteristics, but not quite exactly the same. So let's go ahead and give this dry leaf a try here. And what I'm getting here are very similar to pu'er type notes in the aroma. You do get a kind of damp cellar, damp basement type smells there. Just earthy, wet, cool, damp earth coming out there, combined with again some kind of mushroom characteristics. There's a dried porcini mushroom smell coming off of this as well. The leaves themselves, again, also similar to what you can often find with a pu'er, where a pu'er may be pressed into a cake, or you can have some loose pu'ers as well. Deep grayish brown, that bister type color. Leaf not, in the most case here, I'm finding leaves that are not fully intact. I'm finding leaf sections crinkled up along the middle vein of the leaf there, for the most part. I'm getting some stem or twig or branch type pieces in here as well. Just kind of at a glance in this little scoop here in my hand, I would venture to say that's around 10%. Can be that kind of twig, stem, very tender branch aspect there in the makeup here. Okay, so not a lot about a wet leaf. I mean, sorry, a dry leaf there. It just kind of looks very similar, bears resemblance to, pretty strong resemblance to a pu'er actually. So now I'm going to go ahead and get ready to pour this tea. Angle my lid over to the side here. Get my index finger on the lid to hold it in place. Get a fairly smooth pour there. Looks good. Actually, let me just kind of shake out a few of those last drops there. That looks good. Okay. Set this aside and come back and talk about the liquor pretty soon. Go ahead and talk a little about this wet leaf. Still, first reaction here, pu'er type characteristics, aged, fermented type of leaf smell. Okay, I'm not finding a lot of distinct characteristics that really jump out and say this is almost like pu'er, but it's still very, it's in the neighborhood. Which, without being able to say, you know, this side of the street is pu'er and that side is LiuBao. Just pulling out a few leaves here, I am looking at some of them are thicker and more and tougher. While I do have a few pieces here, like this one in my hand, that a little bit more tender, a little bit more delicate. I'm not going to say it's got a lot of resiliency to it, elasticity to it. I've already pulled out a few little pieces of stem there, or at least one piece of stem. So again, leaf portions still dark in color. A few pieces here and there have lightened up a little bit and got a little bit more of a little bit closer to olive drab. Still pretty dark though. Leaf sections here, I'm not finding a lot of whole leaves, and again some stem. So that really covers our wet leaf. Not much more to really say about that. Let's go ahead and talk about the liquor now. The liquor here, again, quite similar to a black tea and or a pu'er. It's got a bit of a reddish, tinge to it. So it's got like a deep amber moving over towards darker there. Okay. Smells like similar to some of those rooty, earthy pu'ers that I've tasted as well. Okay, let's give it a taste here. One more shot. Okay, I'm talking a lot about pu'ers, and so if I compare this to a pu'er, there are some taste or aroma components. It does have an earthy aspect to it. On the other hand, I would say that pu'ers that have this aroma component, it's harder to find. I do not recall as many of those pu'ers that have the there's a fairly light, gentle texture that the texture builds up into more of a sweetness than several other pu'ers do. So it does come across as a little bit sweeter in the aftertaste. It comes off as kind of a light, gentle smoothness on the tongue. Off-camera tastings, I was able to steep this more than once, and I did also notice it for me at least, that my initial impressions were that it sat better on my stomach compared to pu'ers that had the same taste. So it did not build up as much of the acidity type of feel in the stomach as a pu'er that tastes like this, that looks like this, often does. So what I'm saying is that I detect a bit of a sweeter texture. It doesn't drop off as much as watery, as much as a pu'er, in the same kind of zone or categories. They're not category or grade, but other impressions of this tea, of this type of taste. So it has some of those tastes. That's where it differs. There is the texture, the aftertaste. And so when I look at this tea as a whole, I would say this feels just smoother than, like I said, pu'ers that reflect some of the same tastes and aromas. When I look at this tea as a whole, then I would probably give this tea an 88. It's got some nice components to it. If you find some pu'ers are a little too harsh, this may be something you may want to just kind of give it a taste, put them side by side, see how they compare, how well they sit with you. So come back to Walker Tea Review to learn more about LiuBao and many other kinds of tea.